people parked? Because I know if you open the K-rails, they're gonna get the debris down in there.
That is an absolutely good question. And that's what we kind of stumbled on today when we were looking at the plan, is where they're gonna park and how you can get into your driveways with the KOLs just diverting the mud into somebody's driveway.
Right, because if it's coming downhill like it did before, and they don't have a K-rail there, it'll go in. So that presents a problem with them having somewhere to put their car.
That is correct.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, if I could make one clarification before we continue here, and that is the reason we are looking at this temporary measure is it has become obvious to us that the temporary plan that was being proposed by the flood control district is not going to be ready to be implemented in time for this coming rainy season. We had a conference call with them today, and they request a few property owners requesting for some more dialogue in order for them to determine whether they are going to make their property available for the temporary measures that are being proposed by the flood control district. So clearly, is the temporary solution that staff is going to implement that will be the solution for this coming rainy season.
Ready? All right, I'll hear the cards. I've got look like about 15 of them. David Sandage. Ted Hoffman.
Well, good evening. I had a lot of questions, but I think Councilman Newton already addressed most of them. My concern is all these temporary measures, taking the purchase of the K-rail, the sandbags and stuff, that as long as we get some kind of reimbursement, something from Riverside County Flood Control. This was their mess they created by building up there, and now we inherited it, and the residents have to pay the price. My other question is the purchase of K-rail. I don't know if we have. I'm serious, I don't think Public Works can manage moving K-rail unless they rent additional equipment, based on the equipment I've seen there. So I don't know how you're gonna move tons of concrete and put it from one spot to another if you purchase this thing. I think you're gonna end up having to have additional costs of storage, where you're gonna store it at, where you're gonna put it at, and how you're gonna move it. So I don't know if buying it is that such a great deal. And I wish, it's too bad that this thing was talked about in January of this year. I can see that there was a meeting in June. Staff met with the property owners up there, and yet Dominic gets it at 2 o'clock this afternoon. Either this thing isn't ready for you guys to make a direction on, or someone put the cart before the horse again and jumped into this thing without the proper knowledge or the information to give to us all correctly. I mean, this has been talked about, and it seems like there was some dragging the feet, and it's too bad, because I expect that by mid-October we're going to see some rain, and certainly by November, December we're probably going to get some rain. So this should have been already handled a long time ago, and not at 2 o'clock this afternoon. Thank you.
Richard Hallam.
Hello. Okay, a couple things. Number one, CERT, Community Emergency Response Team, is meeting with CAL FIRE on Monday night, and we're going to set up our training sessions for sandbagging and flood control. And CERT will be probably involved in handing out sandbags, filling sandbags, doing that kind of thing, and we are available to residents. We're going to have, well, if this EOC happens to open, we'll be activated and we'll be there. Second thing, those poor people on Crestview, you know, they've still got mud in their yard from the last rain. I mean, 3 feet high. It's crazy. It's never been removed. And something needs to be done for those folks on Crestview. I've been up there. I do plumbing work, so I'm up there a lot, and it's just, I can see it's going to get worse and worse. And I can guarantee you one thing: if my dear departed friend Granny was still alive, this project would already be done.
Tony Morrow.
I think most of
of you know me, and I've lived on Crestview for 40 years, and this problem has been around for 25 years. So when we talk about it's just happening, it's not just happening. I want to also make a comment, is my background is chemistry and biology, and I like the dirt that's still here, because I've been analyzing the dirt, and I'm comparing it from a standpoint of its bacterial content and viral content. And I'm doing it in an easy way. I'm comparing it to a cesspool. And guess what? It's worse than a cesspool, right? And what's happening, we're ignoring the fact that there is a health issue that occurs with all this stuff coming down. And what happens is that not only the houses have to be cleaned, but they have to be disinfected because of the contamination, the unbelievable contamination. Viral. Remember when I came in here a while back and remember all the scars on my arm? I was under antibiotics for 3 months because I fell into a cesspool of Norco. I think, Kathy, you should change the name from Horsetown, USA to Cesspool, USA, the armpit of Riverside. That's what I think you need to do. And that's the problem up there, is that it's not mud coming down, it's all the contamination coming down. One of the things that we had, both David and myself, is we had rattlesnakes coming down. We had tarantulas coming down. We had baby rattlesnakes coming down. This is really a serious thing. So the people on Crestview are very, very concerned. Not when you say concerned, they're extremely concerned. And if you don't start doing something, they're going to do it themselves. And I'm going to be leading them to do it. You know, and you got to stop it. 20 years ago, when the problem occurred, Bill, you put a berm in front of my house and 4 houses, right, to stop it because I had 2 feet of mud in my house. That was 20 years ago. You're still working on it? Something's wrong. You know, something's fundamentally wrong. And I want to make sure you understand it, but I want to make sure you understand the danger, the bacterial, viral danger that's there. It's more than the dirt. It's more than the mud. And I thank you for leaving all the mud there, because I was able to take it and analyze it. And I did it against a cesspool basis. If you're interested in it, I can show you the results. I think what you should do is probably get somebody out there yourself and measure it yourself. But it's unbelievable bad contamination. So I thank you.
Thanks, Tony. Christie, Sandy. Hi there.
Hi, good evening. My husband left, so I was hoping that he would talk and I wouldn't have to. But our main thing is just the fact of communication and keeping, you know, the lines open with the residents all along Crestview, because, you know, my husband has very often, you know, I know, sent the council members emails, and not just about the flooding, but about the traffic issues and about the speeding and trying to take care of that, because that's another huge problem. But, you know, just our concern that, you know, I think we as the residents need to be kept up to date all the time about what your plan is and when it's going to happen, because we do need time to prepare our residences, you know, for an upcoming storm. And you know, usually we only have maybe 24 hours or, you know, well, a couple days, and you know that, okay, it's predicted that this huge storm is coming. But I mean, it was like out of the blue back in July when it happened. And along Crestview, you know, a lot of people got hit really bad again. So, you know, that's just our concern, is that we feel, you know, he's the one that keeps sending you guys the emails, and then we've gone and we're the ones who, you know, send out the flyers in all of our neighbors' mailboxes, letting them know that there is a city council meeting tonight and the issue is going to be addressed. So I'm not quite sure just, you know, how that information is getting to everybody else except for us. So, you know, that's just my thing, is that, you know, something needs to happen fast, and the communication, we just feel, needs to be a lot more. So, thank you.
Thank you. This must be a doctor. Me? Mullen? That's you? Mullen?
Good afternoon.
Hi there.
Norco resident for, well, 76. So my house was finished in July of 76. I was pretty much very involved with the city council at that time. But that's here and there. I'm glad to be a Norco resident. And I talked to your city manager, I think, at the last Andy. Just when I introduced myself to him, very pleasant. I take it, there's the whole problem with the flooding. I'm in a better corner, so I'm on Mount Rushmore, or Mount Shasta, I don't even know where that right was. So Mount Shasta and Crestview. So when I stand on my corner, I see 4 main storm drains. Believe me, the Wilsons sandbagged it. Thank God you have people who help us. They're you know, with their sandbags, their money, their equipment, they own an equipment company, you know, pipeline company up on Crestview. The neighbors come over, we dig those out, we spend hours digging those out. We're keeping the dirt and everything going down those 4 drains. It starts coming over the curb. We don't have as bad as the next street down, Mount Rushmore. But what it does do, it does another thing there too. People have kind of given up. It's driving our property value down. By now, I think if I would sell my house, which I'm not intending to, living here some 39 years, both of my kids going here to Norco High School, both have grown kids with multiple master's degrees. My grandson goes up here to East Vale or Eleanor Roosevelt, 6'7" basketball player, varsity basketball player. I'm proud to be here. But it's worse that street has ever looked. People are giving up, streets are torn down. You're gonna put your fences back up? There's dirt, just like you said, all the way down the street, both sides. I'm building rock up around my corner, come and look at my corner. So, yeah. And another thank you, the rodeo, you stopped the traffic right there at my house with the volunteer police. Slowed the traffic down. I'm thinking with the traffic there, the problems that we have with the speeding, with people cutting off of California, coming in there to pass everybody going down the street at 70 miles an hour at 6 in the morning and whatever, is occasionally we just shut it off. Have our volunteer people there barricade it off and say, we stopped it today unless you're a resident because we're having such high speed on the street. Just remind everybody to slow down. And maybe we need the weed abatements back that we used to have back in 76, 78. I don't know if we used to write people up. I used to get them. They used to come over and I have professional people behind me who work for cities. I won't go any farther. With weeds this high in their yards. I mean, they're fire hazards. And they've been there for months. This goes on for months. And the Cresslawn, or whatever the name of the cemetery is there where my friends are buried, there's weeds all the way down the side, mattresses all the way down the side. We just started right at pavements. I have property all over Riverside County, I have property in San Bernardino County. I just got a ticket for one of my houses for moving, a $300 ticket for moving everything out in front. They wrote it off because they showed them the dump certificates where they dumped it and they came out and inspected it. But maybe we need to do that as a threat. Go back and write them up. $100, $200, $300. If they don't clean it up in 2 or 3 weeks, absentee landlords, bang. Now, one more thing. Love Norco.
Okay.
We're in it. Is it time? Okay. Do I have to quit? Okay, this is maybe Kathy. I think I've met Kathy before. Maybe knew her mom with me. Anyway, down here, Ingalls, the corner. I've been there how many years? There's still nothing on that corner, no plants, whatever. I think we can get enough volunteer cactus to put on that corner. I'm serious. I'll put 4 hours in. All you gotta do is put it in the ground, it'll grow. I got beautiful cactus in my yard, you know? And that's been for not 6 months, 10 years, 8 years, doesn't cost any money, you know? So whatever, Kathy, if you want to spend a couple hours, come by and I can help you out with that.
Bob Goshen, Gallishan, not even close, but
That's right. It's Bob Galasha,
right.
Mayor and council people. I live at, Paul and I live at the horse trail on Crestview. We're on the other side of the street from the cemetery and the horse trail. We are right at the base of the funnel, if you will. You all have seen the video that we took during one of the floods, and it was it just poured into our yards. Paul has a 3-foot high berm of mud in front of his house. You guys, I hope you have all seen it. You guys absolutely should drive up there and see it for yourselves. However, nothing is happening, as you well know. I have spent thousands and thousands of dollars digging myself out 4 times in the last 3 years. I am not going to get a House Beautiful award this year because I can't dig myself out again knowing that it's just going to happen again. And Paul can barely get in and out of his house because of the mud in front of his house, which, by the way, floods inside of his house every single time. My neighbors on the other side, I was out there with the fire department. They had mud up to my knees, and they were trapped inside of their house in the last mud flood. The next door neighbors to them, they sold their house. They got out of Norco, and it was directly related to the flooding. The neighbors across the way that are in the horse trail, they sold their house. That's a new neighbor up there. This is a big problem for all of us, and to be honest with you, I'm shocked that since the last council meeting, when we did a nice presentation and we had the county down here showing us what they were going to do, you guys were very proactive in that meeting and saying, let's get this thing done. Now these people are in pain, and I was expecting something like, this is how we're going to take care of this, but apparently not much has happened since then. And I don't have a clear understanding of, I don't think anybody does, what these temporary fixes are and how they're going to be done before the rain starts, because as we all know, it's coming. I'm pretty upset about that. And so, let's see, I guess that's about it. I just think you guys, oh, the one thing I wanted to say is that there's a lot of discussion about Mount Rushmore, and I don't know how much attention is being spent on the horse trail right there. It's between Mount Rushmore and 7th Street, right at the corner. I hope you guys know what I'm talking about, but there's a terrible funnel there for mud.
Thank you. Really look here.
Good evening. So my mom's house is on Mount Shasta. And I know that Rushmore and Crestview all have all these issues, but so do some parts of Mount Shasta that maybe you're not aware of. My mom is a senior citizen. The person next to her is also a senior citizen, low income. So a million years ago, Rob Cosell was a friend of my dad's, and he put in a, railroad type thing on the one side. However, the other side has nothing. And they can't afford to put in a wall, we can't afford to put in a wall. Our property has washed into their yard over the years. That utility pole could go at any time. So it's not just the mud and not just the water. That utility pole will make a huge mess. I don't know if it'll smash the homes. Definitely will get rid of all of our electricity up there. It also has I guess it's a water receptacle, and we've called before and nobody will come out. So it stands alone. Usually they're in the ground and surrounded by dirt. This one stands alone. There is no dirt anywhere around it. All of that stuff has washed down into the neighbor's yard. We have horses on our property. We can only put certain horses on that side who are mellow. Because if we put a horse that gets crazy, they'd be stuck under the fence, which one did get stuck under some years back. So I was in the Navy for 20 years. I'm back. I'm trying to fix things up, but it's more than my capabilities. So I don't know if there are other homes that have that same issue, but because our homes are like this coming down Mount Shasta. And our yard is completely in the next door neighbor's yard. We flood. Luckily, our house doesn't get flooded inside. I feel really bad for the people who get mud in their homes. We're lucky, we just have to wear hip boots to walk around the yard. But it's a concern because it's also the utility pole, which is going to smash someone's home or whatever. We can't even get anyone to come out and look at it. So that's part of this whole problem. Our mailbox out front, usually the water comes rushing down the hill and it washes out all the dirt in front of our mailbox. Well, for many years, Norco would come along and the city would put more dirt back in the hole. They've stopped doing that. So I put rocks, I put logs, I put everything I could think of to try to keep the mailbox there. It looks like it's teetering, it feels pretty solid, but I wouldn't lean on it. So just so you know, that is part of the same issue, and I don't know, maybe we could get someone to check those homes, because there are many senior citizens in that area, and ensure if that can be part of this process, because it is part of the flooding that comes down. Thank you.
Thanks. Teresa Olsen.
Hello, Mayor and council members. I'd like to summarize some of the things that have been said tonight. There's been a lot of information. It's like a fire hose. But essentially, what we've seen happen in terms of the flooding is not well addressed by the use of sandbags. It really goes to K-rails. It really goes to larger mitigation measures, especially when you consider that in the rainfall of July, which was not a heavy rain, we had significant issues. So Ted Hoffman said, you know, the buy versus rent issue. For the flood control project that you're looking at with the environmental mitigation reports, you're looking at a several-year process. This is not going to go quickly. It's going to go very slowly. You have many, many issues. So really, the K-rails, hopefully that we will get, would be in place for a very long time. And not only through the process of the environmental reports and getting access to the property and getting right-of-ways, but also during the construction of the more permanent measure. You may be looking at 5 to 6 years overall in this project. I believe that Tony Morrow raised a very serious issue about the dangers of the soil that is washing down from the mountain. And I would hope that the council would take that very seriously and create a motion that agrees to address it, agrees to look into that issue, agrees to corroborate or deny what Tony is finding in the samples that he's provided. And finally, as part of the temporary measures, we have seen our street completely flooded out and debris. And no response from the city, no bulldozers coming in to clean it out, no help whatsoever. What I have seen personally is the residents come out with their little bulldozers to clear the street so that we can actually drive on Crestview when these things are happening. We're in for a hell of a winter, and I hope that the temporary plan will address some of these issues. We need to be able to drive on our street. We need to be able to have potholes repaired in an expedient manner. So in addition to trying to prevent the water damage, which is, you know, good luck, we also need, as part of that temporary plan, to look at what the city is going to do in response to the flooding on Crestview and the debris in the street. And to have a speedy reaction, not to have a slow reaction or no reaction. Because as we know, if Wilson owns the company and they've been clearing, you know, the drains, we need more help from the city. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Council response? Staff? Anyway, Kevin?
I was just gonna say, it just breaks my heart every time I hear these stories. It's just such an awful, awful scenario. And all I'm gonna go ahead and say this, that we finally have the right man on the job in Dominic, and I hope you guys all get to know him. That's why he's in place right now. We need to give him an opportunity to get up to speed. I've watched this man work up in the hills. He had horrific problems up there. He solved them all. We've got Dominic here now, thank God. Too bad we didn't have him a while back, but he's here now. And I really hope that all of you get to know him, and you're going to be very impressed with him. And I really feel that he'll work expediently, and he will get himself up to speed as quick as he humanly possibly can. And so why that's, I don't know if that's much consolation for you. I just want to share with you that at least now, when I listen to your story, I know we've got the right guy behind the job. So let's all try to rally around him and help him understand the problems and get him up to speed. I think it takes a group effort with all of us helping him to make this happen. And I couldn't agree with every single one of you and all your scenarios more. So it makes me wonder how they were even built. I know they were built back in the 60s like that on a hill, but they were. And I'm only one person, but I certainly will do everything I can in my capacity as a councilwoman in the next few months to help. And that's all I have.
Great.
Just very briefly, that all your concerns were heard before, they're heard again, and I think it's obvious that management has made some positive changes, and we'll get behind Dominic, and he understands the sense of urgency, and I think we'll feel a little better with some resolve and addressing these situations. Good luck.
Berwin?
Yeah, I think this is a start to get on the right road to repair that, and especially if they get the Crestlawn, people that own the property up there, Crestlawn, to start trying to help out and work on it. I think we'll get to it, but I know it's getting pretty close to what they're saying, the worst storm since 1997, and I hope they're wrong. But anyway, we just have to work and hope Dominic can get everything rolling here pretty quick. Thank you.
Kevin?
I've been really involved in this process. It's taken several months to get Crestlawn to sign off on an easement, several months. The EIR isn't going to take 5 years is what we're being told. Crestlawn was a big slowdown for us, and they've just now come up with an agreement that it looks like we're in the process of doing. I have confidence that the management change is going to really help the process. The one thing I heard though is that I spend a lot of time over there in the rain, and I see our public works guys over there quite a bit, so I need to, if we could talk, find out specifically what you're talking about, because I'm there when it's raining pretty much all the time. So I want to make sure that we're clear on that I can pass it through. I live on a property that's lower too, and so like 1997, I really suffered with flooding and stuff like that. In fact, we have for years. I've been there since '61. And Kathy, the argument was the houses shouldn't have been built there. There was a lot of people. The city councilman Tom Harris said, "What are you building those houses there for?" And it has been a problem for many, many years. But I have confidence we're going to figure out a problem. And again, now that Crestlawn is on board, it should move much quicker.
Okay. I heard comments of emails so that the people, the residents can know, so maybe if the residents, if your emails are not on file with the city clerk, you might want to send her an email so she's got some type of a heads up so you can be on a notification. I would like to see this in 2 weeks come back on a calendar to see the progress that we're making. What's happened so far and the length of time is unacceptable. I'm sorry, because when we were here with the flood control people, they stated that they would classify this as emergency measures. Yes, the cemetery held it up. If they're releasing it now, then flood control should step in and we should start taking some measures. I don't want to wait till it starts raining, guys. That's ridiculous. We waited too long now. I mean, it's just not acceptable. We need it done. Get it done. I don't care how you do it. Get engineers, spend money, get Andy to buy into it, but in 2 weeks, the council wants to know what you did, who you met with, and some type of direction so we can at least give a synopsis to these residents in an email form if they don't want to come to council. Because they shouldn't be here. Should have already been resolved. That's a tragic part. Changes happen because of necessity. It's tragic. But oftentimes, important things, emergency measures, need to be done. When they're not done, then it becomes an issue that needs to be resolved. Yes, we have people on board that can get it done. I think the residents have reached to a point to where they're not accepting any excuses anymore. I'm not either. Now there's none. So, anybody got anything? Yeah.
I was just gonna ask, I don't know who to ask, but I was thinking about on Tony's topic is that maybe we should send a letter to DDSC, that stands for the Department of Toxic Control Substance, explain to them what's going on and see if we could have them come out and take a look at that dirt and they're a state agency and whenever they hear something like that to alarm me, maybe we should have them take a look at that.
They will.
UCRS, we could call our friend Rafana Bossi.
Yeah.
I don't know if we think that's something, I don't know if that needs council direction.
I think we need to rule things out, is what we need to
Right,
do.
and they would,
And that would
wouldn't they
rule
be the
one
agency?
thing out.
Wouldn't that be the agency? You and I've worked with them.
Well,
when I-
DTSC is really good.
Yeah. So I guess I suggest that we send a letter to DTSC and explain this scenario and then and let them tell us what next steps we should take.
Very good. You add that to the agenda list. Any other comments? Do you have enough direction now? Yes? Okay. So we'll re-agendize this in 2 weeks? Okay. Do you need a motion to receive and file this? Or just... Yeah, might as well. We've already got a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Esposito,
Yes.
Bash, Hannah,
Yes.
Higgins.
Yes.
Newton. Motion passes.
Item 7 is an ordinance on R1 residential and changing them to an A1 level for animal keeping. Steve, you got this?
I do. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. This is exactly that. It's a proposed code change that would introduce animal keeping as a permitted use in the R1 zone. It's currently not allowed in the R1 zone. This is an item that was started by the City Council with direction to the Planning Commission. The first proposal from the Planning Commission was to introduce animal keeping with the same regulations as the A1 zone into all R1 lots with the same regulations and the same allowance for animals. The City Council voted to send it back to the Planning Commission for reconsideration. Then the Planning Commission, in its review, recommended that it should not only address large animals, but small animals as well. And they further refined the lots that would qualify for large animals. And those would fall into 2 categories. One, the minimum lot size is 10,000 square feet, and two, it's adjacent to a street that has an official trail on it. So the code amendment before you tonight does three things, because one thing was added at the last meeting. It allows animal keeping for large animals on lots that are those two issues I just mentioned, 10,000 square feet or over, and adjacent to a street that has a trail. Two, it allows the keeping of small animals and fowl without a limitation on the numbers on all lots in the R1 zone, regardless of the location. Then the third thing is that miniature pigs would be allowed as a permitted use. Currently, it requires approval of a conditional use permit. In the R1 zone, that would change to be a permitted use. And with that, Planning Commission has recommended approval, and I can answer any questions.
Questions of staff?
What was the name of the
Oh, no. Any questions? Go ahead.
I'm sure that was the name of the pig.
I don't know, mine was Charlotte, so.
And the famous first, I call you,
I just remember Kathy's comments about
This is a public hearing, by the way.
Steve, on the pig part, under the summary, keeping miniature pigs is a permitted use as opposed to requiring approval of a conditional use permit. Okay. And it's stated in the summary. Coming over on page 3, item 15, help me with this, that now it seems to read, item 15 on page 3, and not more than one miniature pig shall be allowed for each 5,000 square feet. Is this going back to a conditional use permit?
No, it's permitted use, and thank you, that's a correction, so it said not limit on the number. It's a permitted use, but limited to that number of animals per square foot.
All right, so CUPs are out. Any reports by animal control? I couldn't find anything here. We used to have animal control review and have an approval process on any of the R1s. That's totally removed now in this process.
Correct. For large animals, if they meet those two criteria, 10,000 square feet or larger, and on a street adjacent to a street that has a trail, then it's permitted. It does not require a review by animal control.
Then my last question is, and it's certainly supportive of our lifestyle, and this going back to like when we did the overlay on the R1 zones off of Corona Avenue, then expanding that to the other R1s. I also have a concern for, let's say, residents in an R1 zone that are supportive of our lifestyle, but may not choose to live in a neighborhood where there's horses and chickens and pigs. Would there ever be a remedy for those neighbors in the R1?
There wouldn't be a remedy. If you look at the exhibit that's attached to your staff report, because of those two requirements, the primary one being on a street adjacent to a trail, most of the R1 lots would never be confronted with having large animals next door to them. It would be only those lots that are on the perimeter of those neighborhoods. But for a lot that is on that perimeter, No, there's no remedy for that.
And I think what it takes me back to is the issues we had with the big in the past. That-
Anybody else before I open public hearing?
Just clarification. So just so I'm clear, like Mauna Loa, the Hawaiian Syndicate area, that would never have, this would not affect that. It would not affect Fourth between Hillside and Temescal. It would not affect the area north of Highland Elementary with no trails. It would not affect any place that did not have a trail that was adjacent to the property. So you'd never have to worry about the houses between Hillside, Temescal, Fourth, and then those inner houses, the small homes, or up around, I guess you would though on Fourth across the street from, no, you wouldn't. You would on the back side of Fourth across from the Norco Elementary. You would actually, you wouldn't be able to do it facing Norco L, but on the back side of that development. I'm sorry.
Reservoir.
The reservoir, you would in fact be able to have animal keeping there. And that is actually, and I'm sorry, these developments, because I just remember when they were being built, that development, I don't know, that might be difficult off reservoir to cross the street, we find obviously, but the homes are very small lot homes. So is it is the trail right next to it, or is the trail across the street?
The way it's written, it's adjacent to a street that has a trail, an official trail on it, so it could be across the street.
So you could have a horse on those very substandard lots.
Yeah, well, if you look at, and I wasn't following, I was trying to follow the map.
The one with 16,000 square feet. One lady's been talking to me that lives on the reservoir. She just bought it.
So you're saying that it's not trail adjacent?
Well, what I'm looking at, it's right here on reservoir, right at the middle bottom of the map, Steve, right here.
Are you talking about across from the junior high school?
Well, across from junior high school, you're fine because there's no trail, but it's the back side of that development along reservoir that you might have a problem. Because you've got a horse trail, I think, on the other side of that street.
But if you look at the exhibit, the only lots that would be allowed, the large animal units are the ones that are outlined in the thick black line. All the other R1 lots wouldn't have the opportunity for large animals.
So there's no trail on, oh yeah, okay, there it is. Corona Avenue, is there a trail on the other side of Corona Avenue? So, I'm sorry, we were talking, yeah, Reservoir 2 just sort of touches it, but Corona Avenue, 2517, 2525, 2537, all of those have a trail on the other side of the street.
And so the way it's written, they wouldn't be allowed to have large animals.
They wouldn't be, but they're still adjacent to a trail across the street.
But then they don't have 10,000 square feet.
Just want to make sure that we're not going to put horses on tiny, tiny lots, that's all. Thank you.
This is a public hearing. At this time, I'll open the public hearing. Anybody wishing to talk on this item can come forward. I'm not requiring cards. Seeing nobody coming forward, no. That was a public hearing.
Good evening, Council. My biggest concern, I think it was in there, this isn't, there was going to be no roosters.
No rooster.
But my biggest concern is who's going to be the traffic cop on this. And somebody who fits the rules, puts one horse in, let's say, and somebody a few houses down, they just throw one in. Who's going to make sure that there's enough access to the backyard? It's awful busy. And who's going to call him? I mean, somebody's going to turn the guy in, because they're trying to walk a horse down a little 4-lane gate on the side of the house. a 4-foot wide gate. My concern is, it's gonna be back to R1 residents to be the traffic cop on this, contact code enforcement, who's a lot of cases.
Yes, you did. James? Still public comment? Anybody else? If not, I'll close the public comment, bring it back to council for action. Kathy, anything?
Yeah, I do. Again, I'm going to become an advocate for the pig. I just want to comment on the last time, and I don't know if her name was Arnilda, but we'll just call her that for namesake. And I just wanted to comment that she lived in that R1 lot for years and years, and no one complained about her, and she had family that moved in, and they moved into the garage, and so then all the new family that moved in had all their cars on the street, and so it was a dispute over the family that moved in and too many cars on the street, and so they turned them in, and the pig became the item of discussion. And I'm telling you, I've been on council for 12 years, and I can't even tell you that really there was nothing wrong with Arnelda other than that the neighbors got mad. I have never had a complaint about a pig, but I can't tell you the same about dogs. I can tell you Bonnie's back there, and she's had dogs that have caused nothing but trouble. We just heard about a husky, and we can't start, saying that now you can't have dogs. And I just want to say also about the pig in the city, I did all this research trying to hope that Arnelda could live in her home. Those children, were crying. That Arnelda was truly a pet. And they're mild-mannered pets. They're sweet animals. They're not vicious like many people who have dogs in town. And I want you to know that the city of New York City, allows potbelly pigs in their town. Anaheim, Fullerton, and many other cities throughout Orange County allow potbelly pigs. And so to think that we here in Norco, Horsetown, USA, animal keeping mecca of the United States, would not allow a potbelly pig is really sad, because they're mild-mannered animals. They're certainly not going to kill somebody's peacock or chicken. They're not going to attack any of us when we're trying to get in our car. And I just hope that this council will consider allowing those pets here in Horsetown, USA.
Great.
Mr. Mayor?
Public comment's been closed. Go ahead.
Steve, just
Thank you very much.
one last time, tell me the reasoning that was struck that the property would also be subject to inspection by animal control.
Well, for them to get an animal, it wouldn't require a analysis by animal control. They would only get involved on code cases. So if the question is why we didn't require that, is because we don't have a permitting process. Like, people have to get a permit before they can go purchase animals. We have no way to implement that.
But we still do like a second animal.
For an additional animal unit that's in addition to your allowed number, yeah, that's a CUP. And that does require.
And that's like a minor.
Right.
Would that also be allowed in this R1?
Yes. Yep.
Any other comments?
Thank you, Steve.
I'll entertain a motion. Question? Go ahead.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Norco approving Zone Code Amendment 2015-03, amending Chapter 18.15 R1, Residential Single Family Zone, with any related cross-references and other chapters as needed to establish and amending Animal Keeping Standards Zone Code Amendment 2015-03.
Azevedo?
Yes.
Bash? Hannah? Higgins?
Yes.
Newton? Motion passes.
Well, you just made a whole bunch of people happy. No, about 5 of them on the reservoir. Great. City Council, City Manager, Staff, Communications, how about Kathy? You want to start it? Anything?
I don't have any.
Great. Erwin.
Yeah, I got a question. I don't know if it'd be for Steve or Bill. Dominic's gone. We're talking about El Nino coming in and flooding over in Crestview and everything, we got another area that we better look at over there on 1st and 10th scale where they're doing that grading. Because I was over there in a friend's house the other day, and you could see it from the backyard over there. They've got a big mountain of loose dirt. And we know where it's going to come. It's going to come right down the 1st and 10th scale and head to the elementary school and into those people's homes. So somebody needs to be checking on that, because they've been there for 2 years. I know they had a problem with their truck parking over there when they first started and getting all their permits. So I hate to see those people get washed away when I think it could be prevented before the rains ever hit. Thank you.
Kevin?
I probably should have done this up front. I sit on the GG committee, and a couple of things came down. By popular demand, the school district's name will not be changed. We had nothing to do with that, but it will remain the Corona Unified School District. One of the problems that we have coming up for Norco schools is, given how the bond is laying out and the work is going to be laid out, if you start next year, 4th or 5th grade at Norco Elementary, you will then track the construction from Norco Elementary through Norco Intermediate and Norco High School. So literally from 4th to 5th grade on, you will be in construction until the day you graduate. So that kind of wasn't foreseen. The problem is the way the bond is set up. Norco, because we put in the least amount of money, we are the ones that get the fewest projects, and they had to stack up. The other problem that's kind of being revealed is a lot of people feel because a school is in their city that it is their school, and everybody's lobbying to bring money to that school. The problem is our high schools aren't really single high schools. They are actually one gigantic high school, meaning if you want to go into the FFA program at Norco, you might live in Eastvale or Corona, but you come to Norco. If you want to be in the STEM program in Eastvale, you go to Roosevelt. If you want to try to get an AA before you graduate, you go to Kennedy High School. If you want to be in the Air Force ROTC, you come to Norco Santiago. If you want to be in the Marine Corps ROTC, you go to Corona High School. So it's Stacy Azevedo and I are on, Stacy Nicola and I are on that committee, and all I can tell you is we're lobbying as hard as we can to bring money to our district, and it's really exciting. And I have to say, the school district is being very, very transparent. The process is very difficult because it's very unwieldy, but we're doing our best to bring improvements. Norco L will be the first one approved, Sierra Vista. For the time being, Riverview is going to remain open. Then the next big plan is Norco Elementary, and then the next big plan is the high school, the new gymnasium. But all of the schools are going to be outfitted with new technology, and all of the schools will be outfitted with new fencing for security purposes. So it's really, really exciting and a lot of fun to do. Thank you.
Thanks. Staff. Lieutenant, you got anything about you?
Sure. Good evening, Honorable Mayor, City Council. There is a flyers available that you have there in your hand. They're available on the table. And what this is about is we're calling it Patriot Day, and it's in memorial and to honor all of the victims of the 9/11 terrorist attacks. And so what we've done is we've collaborated with my friend here to the right with the fire, as well as the city of Norco. And we're going to hold a ceremony there, and it's open to all citizens, and we would appreciate anyone that wants to come. Again, this is not just for the first responders, but it's for everyone that lost their life, a way to honor them in their memory. And what we'll do is we have a program, a certain program that we're going to follow. It starts at 8:30 sharp. I'm going to open the ceremony, and we're going to follow it with an invocation from one of our chaplains with the Riverside Sheriff's Department. And then we're going to have a bit of a briefing regarding the loss and the tragedy from Sergeant Del Valle in the back there. We'll transition to fire, and then we'll have a moment of silence that will be announced via radio. And then after that, we would hope that you talk to us, share with us, spend a little time getting to know us if you haven't met us before. It's just a day for us all to remember and reflect on all the lives lost. Thank you.
Thank you. Brian, you had your hand up.
Yeah, just real quick, I just wanted to remind everybody, the fair is here, starts Thursday. And then we also have the parade on Monday, so make sure you get out there and have a good time. It'll be a great weekend for the Norco Fair. Also, just I know Andy talked about the plan, prepare, prevent fire. That'll be going out to in the water bill to all the residents in Norco. And I want to just compliment CAL FIRE and engineering and public works. We've been working close together as a collaboration and really trying to suit up and prepare for this upcoming storm, as Andy mentioned. And so trust that we'll be working on preparation between now and through the end of the winter. So just wanted to make sure everyone knew that this will also be going out in the water bill for everybody.
Thank you. Gina, we solved it? Good. That was your question too. Anybody else got anything? Thank you all for staying. Have a good evening. Be safe.